What happened when a Native American tribe tried to steal horses from a white settlement without drawing the wrath of the settlers or the United States cavalry? The following story is told in the 1989 reprint of the book Covered Wagon Days, which was originally published in 1929 as combined journal entries which were written during a family's migration from Wisconsin to Montana in 1864. The growth and development of this section of southwestern Montana was typical of the change gradually taking place throughout the Northwest, where roving Indian tribes, trappers, missionaries, and miners were for many years the only inhabitants. Town lots were offered free as an inducement to build. A number from Bozeman's train stopped off. Other settlements followed until there were at the time of our arrival 6 or 7 houses in Bozeman and as many in the vicinity. Virginia City was then our nearest post office. Whoever went in with produce usually took our letters and brought back the mail. Sometime in the fall, Charlie Smith, from down near the Forks, began gathering letters over the valley and taking them in every other week. It took him about 2 weeks to make the rounds. Along about grain threshing time, a band of crows camped on East Branch just above Bozeman. Farmers were busy cradling their grain, tying it to bundles by hand, and hauling it into the stackyard. Saddle horses belonging to the threshing crew were grazing nearby. All of a sudden, mounted Indians dashed in between the horses and the machine, headed the bunch toward the river, and were out of range quicker than it takes to tell it. Shots were exchanged before they disappeared in the timber, but without effect on either side. Nearly every herd of loose saddle stock was raided that day. It was estimated that about 50 head of horses altogether were driven out of the country. All was now excitement. A raid on the horses might mean a raid on the inhabitants later. A visit was paid to the Indian camp. The Indians were very much surprised over the affair, showed deep concern, and were most eager to assist. It was the Flatheads, without a doubt, they said. Flatheads had been prowling around of late. And to prove their good faith, they sent riders out to scour the country in search of the thieves and stolen horses. A meeting of the settlers was hastily called, which resulted in a decision to build a defense where the people might take refuge in case of an attack. Accordingly, work was begun at once on a stockade on East Gallatin, just across the swamp from our place. Practically the whole neighborhood turned out to push things along. 2 or 3 days later, Charlie Smith came back from Virginia City with the mail. At once he missed his favorite white saddle horse, which he had turned out with a bunch that ranged down toward Doors. Certain that the horse was stolen, Charlie got busy. He tried to find volunteers to go with him in search of the horses, but every available man seemed to be working on the stockade. He rode over there. They told him of their visit to the Crow camp, where it was alleged that a renegade band of Flatheads had done the mischief. "Oh, bosh, it's no Flatheads. It's nothing but crows," he replied. "I've had experience with crows before." They explained that some of the Indians were out on their trail, but no one could make him believe it was Flatheads, and he rode home. The Crows soon reported the return of the party with one of the guilty Flatheads, whom they were holding under close guard. A council would be held immediately to decide his fate. It was shortly announced that the culprit would be burned at the stake the following day. The public was invited. Preparations for the event were going forward with much bustle and noise. Chance visitors must have been duly impressed with the sorry doom that awaited the guilty one. With great ceremony the stake was driven and the firewood piled around it, ready to be lighted. But when the next day dawned, the bird had flown. Fate was cheated. Work on the stockade was speeded up. Unable to persuade anyone to go along, Charlie Smith decided to ride down to the Musselshell River alone after his horse. Before he started, he came over to our place and got a supply of powder and buckshot. When he left, no one expected to see him back alive. Riding into the Crow village on the Musselshell, Charlie asked for the chief. He came, and Charlie demanded his horse. The Crows had taken it. He knew it was there, and he had come to get it. At first, the chief disclaimed any knowledge of the horse, but Charlie was in no mood to temporize. He hadn't ridden 250 miles for nothing. Tapping his scabbard, he told the Indian that if the horse was not produced at once, he would signal his waiting companions and they would charge the camp. The chief then signed for the horse to be brought, and Charlie led him out of the camp in triumph. Within an hour's ride of Diamond City, on the return trip, they crossed a small creek traversing a marshy place. As they picked their way to firmer ground, the horse Charlie was riding stumbled and fell, throwing him forward. The gun discharged and sent the full load of buckshot tearing through his shoulder. He lurched to the ground. By the merest chance, two hunters, riding in this lonely region, heard the shot and hastened up. There they found him crumpled in a heap. The horses were standing nearby. They believed his life was ebbing away, and they asked him if he had any message to leave. "Just take me to the creek and wash my shoulder and tie it up," was the answer. "I'm not going to die." They tore up shirts, cleansed the wound, and bound it as best they could. Then, improvising a litter of blankets secured between two saddle horses, they started for Diamond City. It was said that after a little while he was able to sit in the saddle with the support of a man at each side, when they could proceed faster. Arriving at Diamond City, he received the best of care, and in an incredibly short time, due in great part to his strong will and splendid vitality, he was healed of his wound and ready to come home. I was out in the yard one forenoon. The folks were away that day. Someone was coming up the river. It was Charlie, riding the bay and leading his white horse, just as though nothing had happened. That goes to show that you couldn't keep a good man down, when that man was Charlie Smith. And that's the story of the Crow tribe stealing horses and blaming the Flatheads, which they almost got away with. Why would the Crows take such a risk? In another video, we'll look at the culture of horse stealing in North America up to the 19th century. Thank you for watching. Please like this video and see the link in the description below to purchase your copy of the poster art featured here.